Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast. It's first day of motherfucking summer, buddy.
It is. It is hit 20 degrees for the first it's May 3rd we're recording this.
Is that why you invited me to the patio? Because it broke 20?
Literally, yeah. Well, so just before recording this, Tyler and I were on a patio
Celsius.
For the first time this year. And yeah, it's summer, baby. Literally I was wearing a t-shirt today. And like I have a friend that's in Australia on my Snapchat, and she like every time it hits like above zero, we're like wearing t-shirts and shorts and shit here. And she's like, what the fuck are you people doing? She went to South Korea. And then she was like, oh yeah, they fucking lost my luggage, so I don't have a jacket. And it's like 10 degrees. And I'm like, I don't see the problem. And she was like, what are you talking about?
Sweater up, bitch.
She's like, you're not wearing a t-shirt at 10. I'm like, we are wearing a t-shirt at 10 here.
Well, especially when you get a nice spot in the direct sunlight.
Oh, man, yeah. I picked out a nice spot on the patio today where I texted him like, hey, do you want to go to patio before the podcast? He's like, you know what? Fuck it, yeah. And I'm like, I'm already there. And I was.
It was like 3 hours before we were supposed to meet.
It's fine. So yeah, welcome to Alcohol Beyond This Point, the podcast where we debate business topics both sober and drunk to see if we come to the same conclusions. This is episode 113, Tyler. Today's episode is sponsored by Prairie Wolf Bakery, and we will have more.
You turn that around.
Okay, and we will have more on that once we get to the shot caller portion of the show. How you doing, buddy?
Yeah, pretty good actually. It's
You just told me before we got on the air that you had your lowest month in sales last month than you've ever had before.
Yeah, it's fine though. Like it wasn't because like the business is struggling. It's just like it was a weird lull in we had business booked, but it just got pushed because construction's always fucking late. And so we're just kind of left scrambling to fill the schedule. But it was kind of nice. Like it was really good timing because we actually moved into a new shop space, and it allowed us to kind of build into that space, or really organize it, and then focus on some other small projects. Some guys took some time off, and now it's like it was nice and easy, maybe too easy, into like busy season, I guess. So whatever, it's no biggie.
My business partner just texted me like before we started recording. He's like, yeah, we have $800 in the bank account. The line of credit's maxed out. My line of credit's maxed out. The gray MasterCard's maxed out. The black MasterCard's maxed out. He's like, well, at least we have a lot of inventory to sell.
Rip.
Yeah, we have like $150,000 in like short-term credit card debt. The payments on my canning line, that was $200,000. That was like, so it's like $4,500 a month. That starts in July. Yeah. And I can't say the last thing, but we're going to have increased expenses right away. Right. I can't say that though, but yeah, so we're not doing great. But
you are also going into your busy season, out of your slow season, which has historically been call your friends because you're almost bankrupt.
This is season. Like 2 years in a row where we haven't had to take short-term loans,
which is progress.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I think we'll be fine. We're not going to go under. It'll be okay.
Yeah,
but
there's nothing systemically wrong.
No, it's the only thing systemically wrong is like there's a recession.
The macroeconomics.
Yeah, which is not my fault.
Yeah, which is not affecting me, which is great.
Yeah, well, but I get the reports from the government liquor stores of all the alcohol sold in my province. Every single category has been down over the last 2 years that I've seen. I got this month was French wine and Scotch. Both were down like 20% dollar amounts. Yeah. The French wine was down dollar and liter. I thought it was funny. The whiskey was down dollar significantly, up liter.
Yeah,
people were buying
on sale.
Better shitty whiskey. The other category in whiskey was up like 85% this month over month, because people were buying like weird Japanese whiskey that like barely qualifies as whiskey. Right. But like Scotch, bourbon, Canadian whiskey is all down as a category.
I've heard globally though, Scotch is way up.
Okay, but
globally over like the last like 5 years
but I'm saying over the last
skyrocketed.
Like 6 months,
right? Yeah,
the world's kind of gone to shit. People can't afford a fucking $100 bottle anymore.
Yeah, true enough. Well, I mean here it's $100 bottle, but elsewhere it's not.
I don't know, man. I'm not, like, as someone who lives in this industry, I talk to all my customers. They've been saying, like, I had the worst one, and if you're listening to this, I love you because you support us. But I had a woman in tears, literally, being like, I haven't bought your wine in 6 months. I'm so sorry.
Yeah.
Because they saw me at like a market, they were buying like eggs.
Yeah.
And they were like, I'm so sorry. I just like, it's not in my budget anymore.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't apologize. Like, it's fine, man. Like, I get it. And then like, so I'm not like mad.
Yeah.
But it doesn't pay the bills to understand what's going on, right? People are broke, man.
Yeah.
It is what it is. And if you're not going to, because like, I always used to say, liquor is recession proof. Right? They drink when they're rich because they're rich. They drink when they're poor because they're poor. They drink when they're happy because they're happy. They drink when they're sad because they're sad. But what I'm finding out is alcohol indeed is recession proof. But you need to be making the $9 bottles of wine.
Yeah.
You need to be making the cheapest in the category. And I'm not. And I can't. I've run the math on the cheapest wine in the category in our province, and I couldn't hit it. That's past my break even.
Yeah.
I don't know how the fuck they do. Well, I guess it's just mechanization and, whatever. But it's like just the fucking labor and materials it cost me to make that shit is more than what they sell it for.
Yeah.
Well, profit wise.
Yeah.
Like, so there's literally no way I can beat.
Yeah. Get fucked.
So it is what it is. But I've talked to a few people, like older business people that have been around for a minute. And they always tell me, they've been telling me it's like, if you can survive the recession, you're thriving the next bull run.
Right.
And then there's going to be another recession. I was talking to a guy that's in manufacturing, that's in his 60s and's been in manufacturing since he was about my age, like since he was in his 20s, and was saying, yeah, this is my 4th recession now.
Yeah.
2008 was worse than this, or felt worse at least.
Right.
Yeah,
2008 hit everybody differently.
And that's the thing is like, for all of us, I keep saying like, Zach, my business partner, pissed me off the other day because I was like using young entrepreneurs to describe this. He's like, bro, we're 27. We're not young entrepreneurs anymore. I'm like, fuck. But this generation of entrepreneurs, right?
I think young is still defined as like under 35 or under 40.
All the government grants that are like,
it's 39.
It's 39 and under. Yeah.
Yeah.
But the young entrepreneur, like my generation of entrepreneurs, have never experienced a recession before.
Yeah, no downtime. It's always been bull run.
Because I saw some TikTok that was like, my biggest investing mistake in my life during 2008, I should have bought a house. I was 10, but I should have bought a house. How old was I? I was 12 in 2008.
Yeah.
So I saw this.
Like, I wasn't in the market. I should have bought Amazon stock.
Yeah, my biggest mistake is being 8 when the last real estate crash happened. And I laughed at that, but then I reposted it on my finance Twitter, Drunk Dividends. Follow us if you scare. But I reposted it because I was like, this is actually not profound, but it's like kind of made me think, where I'm like, yeah, actually, I've never been in a situation of downturn before.
Yeah.
Because my life, like I turned legal age where I could invest in securities in 2014. So from 2014 to COVID was like the highest, most unprecedented bull run of all time.
Yeah.
And now we're having a reaction from a global pandemic that's never happened since fucking 1912. So,
yeah.
It is what it is. Like, the thing is, this kind of thing is like, I'm complaining, and in my heart of hearts, I believe I'll get through. The business will get through.
Yeah. But
it's kind of sketchy. I paid myself $1,000 last month. And I don't know about like maybe listening at home, maybe you can live on $1,000. It's cutting it fucking tight for me.
In this province, that's like half of poverty.
Well, my rent's $900. So, and I don't want to say I'm lucky, but like my corporation pays for my car and my gas and my cell phone.
Yeah.
Right. So I just pay.
So you spent $100 on booze.
Basically, well, no, I spent $100 on water and electricity,
right,
and internet, and then I spent credit card on
the
drinking
rest.
And eating out and stuff. Right.
Very sustainable.
Well, not forever, but we're hoping that maybe this recession doesn't last forever, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know. I just think like it's an interesting like thought process to be like, okay, well, this is like, what did I do last time? There wasn't a last time.
Right.
I was never in a situation of recession before, as a adult at least. Right.
Yeah. You lived through it, but you didn't learn anything from it.
Well, I was never a businessman.
Right.
Right. So
yeah, the only thing I learned from 2008 was my family's business went bankrupt and we lost everything, and I went from a big house to a small house, and it was very shameful. That was the lesson I learned from 2009. So it's like emotionally I felt the loss, but it's like I didn't learn anything from it.
See, my parents were government employees.
Yeah.
And, pensioned and salaried and all this. And I didn't feel a downturn. And
yeah, it was a concept, right?
Even worse than that, or better than that, depending on your perspective. My grandfather, who was retired, who in his career made a lot of money, bought a house in Arizona,
right?
That was foreclosed on. He bought a vacation home. My first flight ever, when I was like 6 months old, going to that vacation home in Arizona, and I didn't cry on the plane apparently.
Wow!
And they were very happy. They always tell this story. I don't remember.
You were drinking.
I was drinking. I was 6 months old, but yeah, my family was in a position where they could capitalize on the recession because interest rates were 30%.
So,
well, like 18, but like,
cash was getting you anything.
Yeah. So my grandfather, who was a pensioned government employee making, I don't know what he was making back then. He was a superintendent of schools. Yeah. So he was making probably $100,000 or more, I bet.
More probably, yeah.
Well, he made enough. My grandmother never had to work.
Yeah.
She worked as like she worked for Hydro for like, I think 5 or 10 years or something. And then like just stayed at home with the kids.
Well, that's just that generation.
I guess that different generation. But anyway, either way, he made fair money. And just having cash back then,
yeah,
it was like, I have uncles, like my grandfather's brothers, that retired at like 40 because they just bought gold and a cabin property in like 2008.
Yeah.
And then just waited. Did nothing. Like they didn't know how stocks worked. They didn't know how trading worked. They just bought assets because someone told them to, sat on it for 10 years and then sold it.
Yeah.
And then made 10x what they spent on it.
I guess if you did it in the right period of time, but typically gold just pegs inflation.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, but if inflation's like 10%.
But I mean, it's like, I don't know. If you look at gold versus inflation, I don't know. You can pull up a chart, but it actually basically just holds to inflation. It's an inflation hedge. It's not a very good investment vehicle. Is my point. But
okay.
Yeah. Anyways,
whatever.
Semantics.
This is also like, I don't know. I was a kid, but I remember my mother being like, "Oh, my great uncle's so fucking lucky because he put his money in this and now he can retire or whatever."
Right.
And I always remember
should have bought CN stock is what you should have bought.
Yeah, no kidding. And I always remember my my other uncle. He had this. He bought this property in the buttfuck nowhere, and then they developed the location to be like cabin country. And they kept telling him the bylaws have changed. You need to develop this land. You can't just sit on it. Right. You need to build something. So every summer he'd go out there and build put one more 2x4 on. Like literally.
Amazing.
And they'd be like, no. I took pictures. I worked on it this year, but my hip.
Right.
I got to do it. And then, but like in the bylaws, it was like, as long as you're constructing it,
right,
it's fine. So he would go out and put one more 2x4 on, basically.
Wow,
build a little deck.
I'm going to say it's almost like you guys were related.
I never really knew this guy well.
Yeah.
But I just remember my mom kind of not calling him a piece of shit, but kind of being like, come on. Like,
yeah, that's great.
You're kind of like.
Just finessing.
And then I think it's funny.
Yeah.
My
great.
mother's like, he's taking advantage of the system. I'm like, yeah, he is.
Yeah,
I love
great.
it. Like, because fuck you and your bylaws. If I own the property, I should be able to do whatever the fuck I want on it.
Ideally.
Well, I'm thankful, like, the property I own, the municipality doesn't care.
Well, it's because it's already subdivided. Whatever.
Because some places that are like on the come up do care.
You have to build.
Like, you have to develop it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially in cities.
Right.
You can't just buy infill properties and then wait for the speculation to grow.
Right, because I don't, do they levy like fees or fines against you or what?
No, they'll take it here. At
Yeah.
least they'll take it.
Yeah.
They'll just be like, yeah, you can go fuck yourself. I know. Yeah, I know. In like, I think it's New York or San Francisco, one of those like tough real estate. If a business isn't opened in the location that you own, you have to pay like 100 times taxes
Oh, right, yeah.
until you have it operating as something, and then the taxes go down.
Right.
Yeah.
Hmm.
But we're talking about like cabin residential country,
Right.
right? I don't know what the actual things they do. I think they'll like seize it from you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Wild.
Or basically imminent domain you.
Yeah.
Like pay you out of it and take it and
Yeah.
then get someone else to develop it. Because they're trying to prevent real estate speculators from buying.
which is good. Like I think
I don't know.
I think speculators have just kind of ruined most people's way of life for no reason except to enrich themselves. Like I don't think the world would be worse if there wasn't real estate speculators.
I am trying to argue with you from a free market perspective, but I can't disagree. Like,
I mean, what that free market do? We're living in it. I mean, like the Canadian house prices, even versus the U.S., like our buying power as compared to the average American, I think dropped 30 or 40% in the last 2 years, which is fucking awful.
Apparently, if you like measure our like purchasing power parity versus strength of dollar versus home price versus average wage or whatever, Canada's like the lowest of the G7.
Yeah.
Or like the worst off.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah.
And that's new.
Well, I was just actually, my friend is house sitting right now. And they were just curious because they don't own a house, but they maybe want to get a house. And they were curious how much this house was worth. So I'm like, oh, it's, let's think about it. So I Googled it and found a couple places in the area. And I'm like, it's probably worth about 400 Gs. Which is like, seems reasonable to me, right?
Yeah.
It was like 3-bedroom, like backyard, whatever. I'm like, yeah, all right. But then my friend who's a mortgage broker always tells me the bank is looking for you to have 3 times your income on your mortgage payment.
Right.
That's the rule of thumb.
Yeah.
You're going to get approved if your income is 3 times what you're paying in a mortgage.
Yeah.
And it's hard to get approved if it's lower. So I put the $400,000 home into a mortgage calculator at our current rates of about 5%.
Mm-hmm.
And you need to be making $8,000 a month to pay for that house.
Woof.
By their metric.
Yeah.
And that's $96,000 a year.
Yeah.
Which is the median income in Canada is 40.
Yeah.
So that's more than double what the average or the median.
Well, what's the median household though?
61.
Is it?
I don't know. He's Googling it. Don't worry.
It is 96,220.
Sorry, what?
96,000.
96,000 for a household?
Yeah.
So what's that individually? 42 and a half?
If you could do the math that way, but it's more so like 96 and 0. It's probably a lot of it.
Fair. No, but okay, but like, but
or
seriously.
like 60 and 30.
But, okay, so I have to get married to buy a house?
Most people, yeah.
Well, what if I don't want to?
Most cases, that's how it is. Like the number of single people that own homes is going up, but it has historically not been very high. And like the 2-person income to afford a house, well, welcome to the 2000s, baby. Like that's why everybody fucking grovels about it. It's like you used to be able to just survive with a you used to be able to survive with a single income, which that meant you could afford your fucking mortgage and your food.
Yeah.
Now you can't. That's the point.
You know what my mortgage broker friend actually suggested to me? Not suggested, but just like maybe think about it. And I'm not suggesting anything here, Tyler.
Uh-oh.
But he said get a friend and treat it like a duplex.
Yeah.
Like how I rent with Mitchell right now. He has the
Yeah.
top floor, I have the bottom floor. He's like, because bank doesn't give a fuck. Because I don't know why, but I was under the impression that if you wanted to have a mortgage on like multiple people, it would kind of have to be like a marriage situation.
Right.
But no, apparently like they don't give a fuck as long as you have 2 people with 2 incomes on that mortgage. He's like, I do it all the time. I broker people that are friends.
Yeah.
They just want to get buy a house, and then they buy equity in the house. And then it works like that. So
Yeah.
like, but like, so like, not saying I would want to do that necessarily, but like that's almost what the economy is like forcing people to do.
Yeah, absolutely it is. I mean, there's I was even reading something about this the other day, how new home builders are factoring in income suites a lot more. And in addition to that, in addition to income suites,
So like income suite being like, I want to rent out my basement.
right.
Yeah.
Like
Just for the
a
listeners.
completed suite, yeah.
Yeah.
So, and now the next phase of that is not necessarily an income suite, but kind of like a hybrid between that and just a bit of a more private layout. So basically you can have your adult children live
Live
at
with you.
home with you, and
Without
it's
like being in your space.
right, and maybe like they'd like have a small kitchen, and maybe they don't have like all of the amenities within their sealed off area. Like they would still connect with the family, but they'd have like their own entrance and like kind of a lot of the elements of a private suite.
Yeah.
So that they could be more comfortable living there into their late 20s or whatever, and like have a a partner live with them and so on, stay home and pay rent, whatever. So that's like being starting to creep in to home design.
Well, I also like, I know that in some places in Europe and I think like Asia, they do like 100-year mortgages
Yeah.
where the mortgage payment is so low. And like, I know you're listening, you're like, 100-year mortgage, I'm not going to live 100 years. That's the whole point, is that they make the payment, $100 a month because it's stretched over 100 years. But then the idea is when you die, your son or your children keep
Yeah.
paying it.
Yeah, just generational housing, right?
And apparently that's like a culture. Correct me if I'm wrong. I've never been here. I just read an article that was like talking about that.
Yeah.
Like we should bring this to North America. Because apparently like having like a mortgage was like an invention of the banks after World War II, where they're like, we need to make more money. So they're
Right.
like, let's make propaganda where it's like, if you don't move out, you're a pussy. And then they like made it so like they commoditized housing, when before it was literally like you just kept passing down the house basically.
Yeah, it was the structure of the mortgage and the marketing of the mortgage, along with the kind of the invention of housing developments, where they would have like specific models and like suburbs where like our friend that works in that industry,
Yeah.
the builder buys up a whole bunch of land, they put in the streets, and then they pick a couple of models and they build all these houses the fucking same, which like drives down the cost of building and speeds things up significantly because like the skill level goes down.
Which essentially
They just
what do you call it, where you have
a
like
production
a
line.
production line.
Yeah, they turned housing into a production line, which is like was shitty for trades. Like that was really the beginning of the end for trades being like a really good, or at least carpentry and those types of things being like a really good career path for most people. It just really shrank down at that point. Now it's like you have the industry is like 3/4 crackheads and 1/4 competent, and it's not like a lifelong sustainable career for most people. It's not
'Cause
accessible.
You personally avoid that by being the top of the top. Like you
Exactly.
build the top on the market. But like where I'm at a disconnect with my business is that I can't be the top
Right.
because I'm not Italian or French.
Right.
You can't make the most expensive wine if you're not in France.
Yeah.
And that's it. Period.
You mean Winnipeg isn't known for its wines?
Even if I was in BC, maybe I could like,
Do a little better.
but it's like I can't sell the most expensive bottle I have is $26.
yeah.
And that is like, I have people being like, $26. Like, there's nothing I can do. So most of my bottles are around $15. And that's the most I can command in this market. But you, like, the whole, like, rich people don't get affected by inflation.
Well, no, I guess no. They don't.
Well,
They
I
don't.
mean,
They're
define
not.
rich people, right? But like,
They're not materially affected
okay, but
by
like
it. It's not going to affect their plans.
my grocery costs go up 30%.
Yeah.
That's all of my spare income.
Yeah.
Their grocery costs go up 30%. They're not even feeling it,
Yeah.
right?
They don't notice it.
So-
They're not price sensitive to
That's what I mean.
most things that we're doing.
That's what I mean. Like, but like, I'm also getting fucked right now by interest rates going up high because I have a lot of long-term debt,
yeah.
right? The canning line I was paying $3,200 a month for, now I'm paying $45.
Yeah.
that's an extra fucking $1,300 a month I have to pull out of nowhere, just because some numbers on a screen moved up.
Yeah.
Literally.
Yeah.
Some fake. What I agreed to pay them is now
The same.
70% of what I'm paying them, because some numbers on us, because some guy in some place that none of us have ever met raised a number, so that's almost like
Because the economy.
But I agreed to pay you this much. Can I just pay you that much? You know what I mean?
There's a
fuck off.
just quick sidebar on the whole raising interest rates to curb inflation. It was, I don't know if it was like a hedge fund, I don't know, some fucking agency did a big meta study on, they're like, okay, so this is inflation, and they just simply looked at where is the money gone.
Yeah.
They're like, of all that money, where is it gone? And the argument is like, it's like it's the wage increase, cost increase cycle, right? That's what all the fucking corporate people will say, right? That's why inflation's going up, because everyone's wages are going up, blah, blah, blah. That accounts actually for overall this is for the U.S., overall for 8%
But
of the realized inflation.
As an employer, I disagree with that, because I raised my employees' wages to fight inflation, not the other way around.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Like, that's the reality of it is you're not causing, like, your prices aren't jacking up because your employees want more. Like,
dude,
that's not a
I'm
real...
fucking raising my employees' prices to like $40,000 a year.
Yeah.
For uneducated, like high school dropout, like entry level jobs. And then my partner and I were talking about this. He's like, this is ridiculous. And then I thought about it. I'm like, okay, well, we were started paying at like $14 an hour when minimum wage is $11.15 or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
That's the same equivalent of now minimum wage is $16, paying 19 or 20.
Yeah.
And $20 an hour is $40,000 a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Same thing. But it just feels, I'm being a boomer now, right? Where I'm like, this is too expensive for these fucking kids. But it's like, that's just where it is.
It's a mental number.
That's where we are. Well, but also I have $800 in my bank account right now.
Right.
So we might go under, but it's fine.
The corporate, or the study basically found that the only thing that really changed was stock buybacks and corporate profits, which is fairly conclusive. Like,
no, but even then, like
80% of inflation is just companies making more money.
I don't know about that, because like
like that was like the fucking hard numbers.
I'm pretty active with the hard numbers in like the S&P 500 and stuff. Like I have a stock trading group and everything that I'm in.
Yeah.
And like most like prices, like EPS, like earnings per share and stuff is down for a lot of companies. Of like if you were grading on a curve, like
right.
where the projection that it would have been pre-inflation.
Is that accounting for
I'm just kind of
share buybacks and?
Well, maybe not. Like
a lot of them are increasing their equity. Like they may not be increasing their earnings per share, but
I'm also like I'm self-admittedly not that smart when it comes to numbers.
Yeah.
So like I just kind of repeat stuff I hear. But
there's a fucking
like,
Wall Street analyst firm.
Sure. I'm not disagreeing with you, but I also have seen like analysts saying like this is the first time ever that like everybody's hurting at the same time. Like where like consumers and corporations are hurting, and then the conclusion of the things that I read were like, we don't know where, like our ideas of the economy have been thrown out the window now.
Right. We don't
because
know
it's
where
like,
did the money go?
Whoa, what's happening? Like, how do we have like inflation crisis with a real estate crisis, with a housing crisis, with a employment crisis? Like,
no,
this shouldn't all be happening at the same time.
The strong job market with everything else is the weirdest
But I'm
part.
having trouble hiring people.
That's what I'm saying.
And I pay above rate.
That's what I'm saying. If it was a real recession, you should have a glut of workers.
But why do we feel like it's a recession? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, so that's the part that's not making sense.
But apparently, like everybody, like people that like have these like you have the rule of this, like if this goes up, then this goes down, whatever.
Yeah.
Everything's like changed over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, for those who were like keeping track of my math, with like the 8% was the wage inflation, and like it was between 70 and 80% was corporate corporate, like I guess share buybacks, extra earnings, extra profits, whatever.
Oh, I thought you were talking about how the percentage of black people versus. Never mind.
So the missing amount in there, the missing like 12 to 20% is actual increased cost of goods.
But that's low for me. Like there's not a single cost of mine that's up less than 50%.
Yeah, but you're one business.
Sure, but
my costs are up less than 15% over the last 2 years.
Peak COVID though, what was your lumber looking like?
I didn't buy lumber.
Well, but you know what I mean.
The largest price increase I've gotten in the last 2 years was I think 3.5%.
No, but you remember fucking lumber in the middle of COVID.
Yeah, but I didn't buy lumber.
But I don't know. Someone on your team was fucking buying lumber.
No,
how do you build a house?
We don't do anything with lumber.
Someone in the house building the house buys the lumber.
Yeah, sure, the lumber went up, but like a lot of stuff didn't.
There's no
it went up for a short period of time, and then it all came back down. Like it's quite down right now, like compared to where it was. Like it's mostly come back. Like my point is, you're looking through the glass of just your business.
But how am I supposed
and specific
to look
commodities?
How
right?
am I supposed to look at anything else?
This is the overall market. It's just price gouging.
Like, I guess. But then also, like, most of the stuff I buy for, like, the bottles and supplies and stuff I buy from China. So
Right.
It's like, are they price gouging me?
Well, probably.
Like, maybe the answer is yes.
You're probably a victim of price gouging to a great degree. Maybe it's only 20% of what think about your price increases. Only 20% of that is actual real costs.
But that doesn't
and
help.
80% is you getting gouged.
But that doesn't help me.
No, it doesn't. It's
Right.
just it's trying to counter the narrative of if you increase the interest rates, it'll solve the problem, which is bullshit.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Well, but then I also, like, you look at, like, our left-leaning government trying to introduce, like, anti-price gouging bills and stuff. It's like, how's that going to stop China from doing it?
Tariffs.
We have yeah, and then then that's a whole.
Then you're in a
game.
trade war.
Yeah, great, perfect. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like I'm
not saying that there's an easy solution. I'm saying the fucking messaging needs to be understood, because like telling people it's one thing when it's the other is just it's not helpful.
But I'm saying even proper messaging doesn't solve anything.
What's a start?
Like, I guess.
Like the wrong messaging isn't better. It's like I don't know. I don't know. I think it's just you give people the fucking information and let it be what it be, because every single CEO of these companies in their earnings calls, virtually every single one of these fuckers is like, oh, due to the inflationary environment, we've been able to take advantage and increase our prices substantially, and we've actually outpaced our losses that we like. Blah, blah. They're literally saying we're price gouging these fuckers, and we have record profits this year. You're welcome, shareholders. And like, so many earnings calls sound like that.
Well, I guess, like, buy those stocks then, right?
Right.
Should be my solution.
Yeah.
So anyway, we're going to transfer here to the part of the show that you, the audience, can pick the shot that we take.
You family that can't afford groceries,
you
just
family,
buy that stock. You idiot.
Dumbass. Yes, this is Shot Caller, the part of the show where you, the audience, can pick the shot that we take. This week we're taking a salted caramel whiskey shot from Tennessee's Old Smoky Distillery Shot Company. This Shot Caller segment is sponsored by Prairie Wolf Bakery, one of the newest bakeries in Winnipeg. Classically European trained bakers are making... You ever go to, like... So the other day, I was at a bakery. Or no, I was at a grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I like sourdough bread. I'm going to buy some sourdough bread, right? So I buy some sourdough bread and I make some sandwiches and I like it. Because I'm a fucking shitty guy with bad taste. Yeah. And then the owner of Prairie Wolf Bakery says to me, that's not fucking sourdough bread. That is garbage. You are the bad person. You have bad taste. They didn't say this to me, but this is what they were thinking. I could just tell. So apparently... I'm not one. You eat more food than I do. I don't eat really food at all.
You're a food eater.
You're a food eater, let's say, right?
Yeah.
And many of you maybe listening are food eaters. So apparently there's a distinction between bad food and good food.
Some say, yeah.
So some say that. So apparently Prairie Wolf Bakery is good bread and grocery store bread is bad bread.
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's kind of... It's just like going to superstore meat section versus your local butcher.
Yeah, that's almost exactly what I do.
Yeah, which I mean most people do because it's affordable, and
Exactly.
the butcher is not. It's a luxury.
But this is also affordable, Prairie Wolf Bakery. So
Hmm.
shout out you for sponsoring this episode. And if you want to learn more, Google it. I don't know if they have a social media. I didn't write it.
Just go there and buy bread, okay?
If you're watching the video version of this podcast,
They don't need your likes. They just want to sell bread.
I'm the opposite. I need your likes. If you're watching the video version of this podcast on youtube.com/Willows, you can see I'm reading off some notes. I don't have a lot of notes written, so I don't fucking know. But thank you, Prairie Wolf Bakery, for sponsoring this episode. See, I really like... I cringe when I taste the whiskey, and then immediately it goes away. Because that fucking caramel is, like, good.
It's so smooth.
We talk about this every fucking week, but I feel like I always have to bring it up. Old Smoky Whiskey is the worst branding I've ever seen on a fucking whiskey, and I love their products. Unironically.
Thanks. Yeah.
Yeah. Bring back the fucking Magalo Habanero that you laid off, because we bought it a lot.
So I want to get a little depressy, but
Oh, good.
kind of lean into my more recent self-work, which is not depressy.
Okay, you have 5 minutes to make this turn this
Interesting. Well, no, first with a question. Are you familiar with like the El Nino cycle?
around. My dad's really into weather.
Yeah.
Yes, so yes.
Okay, so we're going into El Nino right now.
Which is colder.
No. Hot.
Okay.
We're into it. We've already started it.
I thought it was more precipitation, which is
It's-
usually more snow.
It depends where.
No,
it depends where you are.
Dude, we just had our first day in May go over like 15 degrees. I'm pretty sure we're the opposite.
It doesn't. It okay.
Okay.
Mr. Weather Expert.
Hold on, let me tell my story.
Yeah.
Our friend Christian Zappa, who's a alumni of this podcast, that was episode, I want to say 67.
We call him Mr. DiSerrano.
Anyway, he owns a lawn care and snow removal company, and he founded his company in a El Nino year where there was like no snow,
Yeah.
and he was laughing because he got people to buy monthly
Right.
and there was no snow,
right.
but they paid the monthly fee.
Yeah.
And then the second year, there was so much snow it almost put him out of business.
Yeah.
He had to drive like 18 hours a day because he couldn't get the employees to handle all the snow of the contracts he had, because this is so easy. And then, but that was an El Nino, which is
Right.
less snow.
I think the Nina cycle is more about temperature.
Okay.
And
I'm pretty sure it's not, but I will let you finish. I don't,
Okay.
This is like, neither of us know enough to argue about it. So like,
I am fairly certain about what I know. I think you just don't know what you're talking
this is something you're like repeating off a podcast you heard this morning.
about. No, it's not.
Okay.
I've actually done a fair bit of reading about weather cycles, but anyways, we are going into a hotter 3-year cycle. So for the next 3 years, on average, it'll be hotter than the last 3 years, basically.
Oh God, because fucking 2 years ago was a plus 40 and a drought.
Right, and
Perfect.
that was significant because we were breaking records during the cold cycle.
Great,
for
awesome.
heat, and we are getting into the hot cycle.
I'm gonna kill myself.
You might not need to.
I know I say that a lot.
It's the heat might do it.
Perfect.
So yeah, no, it may not be significant this year. I mean, if you think about the year before last, we had an insane heat wave, right? And then last year actually wasn't that bad. But if you looked at like the map as an aggregate, everywhere was fucking hot except for like Canada. Like everywhere was seeing a heat wave. Like Europe was having their soil was getting killed because it was so fucking hot over there. They were wrapping their bridges in tinfoil to save them. And yeah, that was the last year of the El Nino, like of the cold cycle, and now we're getting into the heat. So that was the depressy, but I did listen to a podcast, or whatever, one of the more recent ones on the Joe Rogan Experience.
I think what you should start doing is just stop saying you listen to this podcast and just like repeat it like it's your own thoughts.
That's true.
That's
I
funny.
should, yeah.
Then we seem smart.
I should, especially if I do it verbatim. Anyways, his guest was talking about quantum computing. I'm not going to get into it. You can fucking listen to that shit yourself. But it made me a little bit hopeful for like human potential in terms of like technology and science of like, we might actually get the capacity to solve problems that seem insurmountable right now. It is feasible. Like maybe we invent an extremely efficient like air conditioner system that like can go all around the world. We can like deal with the heat, or maybe like something in water filtration, something in like next generation of fertilizers or antibiotics. Or there's recently a discovery of a bacteria that will eat plastic like super quickly, like in under 72 hours.
Are they funny little guys?
Yes.
I like them.
Very small. Will completely decompose plastic. And like there's a lot of things like this that's like, watch us in 4 years being like, yeah, so that plastic eating bacteria has fucking doomed us. It's like we put it into the ocean, now it's killed everything, and now it's a sterile distilled water environment. Like that might happen. We're not smart, but
True.
I don't know. Like I'm trying to look at, my next couple years of my life, and I've really been battling this because there's this wicked nihilism that like has set in just the process of like learning about how fucked everything is and getting worse consistently. Like political norms are being shattered, authoritarianism's on the rise, fascism's in vogue. Like, and then the weather's getting worse, and we're doing the opposite of everything that we need to do. It's like, and it's not just your dad being like, shit's going all downhill. It's like, I think it is measurably getting worse. Objectively getting worse.
I think, like, objectively, though, it was just the trans people that made things worse.
Before
them, it was fine.
Yeah, because they just invented trans
They
people.
put my trans people on a Bud Light, and now the world is shitty.
Unironically, though, I heard it very well described today. Gender-affirming healthcare.
See about it. Okay, continue. Are you about to say something transphobic?
No. Gender-affirming healthcare has been around longer than like manned flight.
Well, boob jobs, right, are gender-affirming healthcare.
Yeah, I mean, it goes beyond that, obviously, but like social transitioning is a big part of it.
Did you see this Steven Crowder thing this week?
Maybe.
Steven Crowder, who I'm on the record of saying I never liked. There's a lot of like Jordan Peterson. I actually do think is smart. I think he's trying to grift to make money, which like do you, man. Joe Rogan, I on the record of thinking is smart. Even Ben Shapiro, I think is smart. Yeah. But I never liked Steven Crowder. I think his just arguments were just never. He did those that meme that's like sitting in a college campus at a table and he says whatever is whatever, change my mind.
Right.
That meme is Steven Crowder. So now you know who I'm talking about. Listening, if you didn't know who he was. That meme is from like there are only two genders, change my mind.
Right.
And he debated with people. And it was always like bad faith arguments.
Yeah.
It was
just trying to own libs.
Yeah, it was trying to own
libs, get clicks.
And so he's a Canadian, by the way.
Rough.
Who now lives in America for a while because he loves guns or whatever. And so a clip came out that his wife leaked from their Ring camera in their backyard.
Oh, yeah, I did see this.
Of him sitting in the backyard, smoking a cigar with his shirt off, and she's 9 months pregnant. And then he's bitching, being like, you didn't clean the house? You didn't fucking... What? And she's like, can you go buy me something? He's like, you what? You want me to fucking stand up and go to the store when you're perfectly fucking capable of doing this? And it's being like, I'm the man. You need to service me when she's like 9 months pregnant.
Yeah.
And
that's completely consistent with his character.
Smoking a big fucking cigar. George Carlin said, big brown dick.
Yeah, sucking a big brown one.
That which is a parody. This is a 6 off the cuff now, like off the story, but that's a parody. I think it was Freud said like everything that men do that's like, pineal shaped is like a subconscious, I want to suck a dick.
Everything's phallic, yeah.
But he's saying that as he's smoking a cigar.
Yeah.
And the guy he's talking to is like, what about the cigar you're smoking? He looks at it and he's like, well, sometimes a cigar is just a cigar.
Bullshit.
Yeah. Which that's where that comes from. That's where George Carlin was like, no, sometimes you're sucking a big brown dick while you're talking, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, but so he said all this shit, and then it comes out he had gender affirming surgery recently. He had a chest thing
Mm-hmm.
where he had like breasts,
Interesting.
but it was a medical thing.
Yeah.
And he had gender affirming surgery where he had that fat removed
Right.
to concave his chest. And the doctor that did it described it as gender affirming surgery.
Right, because it's cosmetic.
It's
for
cosmetic.
gender purposes
It
and no medical reason.
There is not a single medical reason he could live with these little flabby tits.
Right.
I do it every day.
Right.
And so everyone's responding, and then so this just like happened at the same time as this yelling at his wife.
Yeah.
But it's like this is a transphobic man who is getting gender affirming surgery.
Yes.
So even like I defend the Tates all the time because I think they're funny, but Tristan Tate had the same thing.
Yeah.
Where he had like chest surgery, and it's like, and he's like, yeah, I was getting made fun of when I was younger, so I fucking got the surgery. It's like, well, okay, all right.
Yeah, because some men get breast tissue, like,
yeah, and that's fine, is what I'm saying.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
Get the surgery, whatever.
I don't give a fuck. You're an adult.
but that's not their thing.
That's not bad. So if
That's not their thing. I don't give a fuck is not their thing. It's like,
No,
I need
that's-
to make your medical decisions. Is
that's
their entire
the
decision.
thing that these men, maybe not Tristan, but Steven Crowder for sure, the thing that he wants to make illegal in America, he did.
Yeah. Effectively, yeah.
Fuck off.
Well, no, he wants to make it illegal to change your gender.
No,
not.
he wants to make it illegal for like men to have gender affirming surgery to make themselves look like women, when that's basically like he did the same thing but just in reverse.
Yeah.
But it's like that's the same surgery.
Because his masculinity was fragile.
Yeah, fuck off. Like so, and if Steven Crowder ever wants to fucking debate me on this, like I have the same opinion with all these people, not just him. But it's like, if you're going to be an anti-government libertarian, be an anti-government libertarian.
Yeah.
It does. You know what you can do with no government? Have a drag queen fucking read a story time to a kid.
Yeah, and
You
also
can't
you can
make-
choose to not take your kid to that drag story time.
You can't make that illegal.
Yeah.
And then also make other stuff legal.
Yeah.
I personally, Willows does not want the government interfering with this shit. Anything.
Yeah.
So I don't fucking care. Texas or whatever, Florida was trying to make it illegal to dress as a woman. If you're a man.
Dude, there is.
What the fuck does that
there
even
is-
mean?
you wanna-
Define that.
You want to get? Oh, that's the worst part. Is that because they're introducing these bills, there has to be definitions introduced about gender. I was actually just listening to a breakdown of some of these bills. Guess how many anti-trans bills have been introduced since January 1st?
Probably a lot, right?
Over 300.
Yeah. In just the States or?
Yeah, in just the States since January 1st of this year.
That sounds about right.
It's fucking
Well,
crazy.
all of
And-
them don't make any fucking sense.
Well, some of them do make sense in a scary way. So one of them, it defines a woman is a human female that produces ovum, that like can be fertilized, blah blah blah, and a male and is a male human that produces sperm and can fertilize eggs, whatever. So basically, in their exact you can tell they haven't fucking thought this out.
because as soon as you're past menopause and
If you're infertile, you're no longer a woman. If you can't produce eggs, you're no longer a woman. If you have if you name a fucking medical condition, you no longer conform to the medical
I got like
definition of a
shot in
woman.
the dick or something, and now I'm not a man anymore.
Right, or a man. You don't fit either definition.
Yeah.
Like there's probably a third of the population doesn't fit into that. And it's like, and a lot of the stuff that they're introducing, like science has just dealt with like 100 to 200 to 300 years ago.
See, here's the
And
thing.
it's like it's not even there's no good faith in the arguments whatsoever. It's like these fucking senators that are trying to make laws and policy and have debates about technology when they don't understand
the technology.
that a finsta isn't a thing. That's literally what's happening with these fucking pundits. They don't understand shit.
Tyler, that's one of the smartest things you've ever said.
Thanks.
Is that these senators trying to make laws against technology when they don't understand technology, or the same senators trying to make laws on gender when they don't understand gender?
They don't understand shit about science.
But they would also say to you that you don't understand gender, that the gender book says there's two genders.
I say get fucked, stay out of my business. It
No,
doesn't
so
matter what you
that's-
think.
That's my opinion, is that I don't know.
Prove to me that any harm is being done by you
As,
not passing
like
this.
a liberal would say, no, there are more than two genders, right?
Right.
I say, I don't know and I don't care.
Get fucked. Get out of my
Get
business.
fucked. Stop fucking asking questions about other people.
Because if you look at the enforcement mechanisms of these types of laws, this is why you have to think about what I don't know what they call it. I'll just call it the whiplash effect, where if you pass a law that is going to enforce your ideology, that same framework of enforcement and governmental power can be
to what you don't-
reversed
Yeah.
and be applied to
Yeah.
you.
As soon as it switches over government. Then.
Exactly. So they're talking about piercing doctor-client privilege in order to enforce these rules.
Oh, yeah.
They're
which is
talking
fine.
about, like, Florida wants, they want to create an app, whatever, like some kind of portal where women have to track their periods, and if they miss a
prove
period,
their-
they have to prove that they didn't have an abortion.
Yeah. Yeah, which is fucked up.
Like, most of the women that I am on have a personal relationship with, actually, no, I'll amend that. 100% of the women that I know well enough to know this information do not have regular periods. And if they do have regular periods, they had a period of time where they were not regular. Like, what the fuck? This is becoming a law?
I've had pregnancy scares with girlfriends
Right.
that they missed their period.
Because they were,
and
like, stressed.
Well,
Had too much coffee.
no, because the irony is because they thought they were pregnant. So their body was like, yeah, we're pregnant. And then they went to their doctor and they're like, you're not pregnant. And then they had a period immediately.
Yeah.
Like walking out of the
Yeah,
thought.
yeah.
It's like, oh.
Yes.
Because your body is like, oh, I guess we are. Like, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Human period is one of the most like fucking fickle, weird ass things.
There's so,
that,
there's like ghost pregnancies, there's hormonal pregnancies,
Yeah.
there's so many different, like, name a thing.
Well,
It's an incredibly
here's
complex.
the thing, is that neither of us are scientists. We can have our opinions on genders and whatever. The period. That was a joke, by the way.
Rip.
The end period, end of sentence
Full stop.
is. I don't care what they do, and you shouldn't either.
And the state doesn't actually have any scientific or any
It
basic.
doesn't matter if they do.
There's
I don't give a fuck.
sure. I guess that's take it to that point.
Because
sure.
because listen, they're these same people that are anti-abortion, whatever. Now we're getting into an abortion debate, which I don't think we should continue on. Just let me finish our sentences. Is like the government was saying we have science that supports COVID vaccines.
Right.
And you're like, no, you don't. And now you're like, no, we have science that supports two genders. And they're like, no, you don't. Fuck
Right.
off. Like,
Either
that's the
way.
same fucking thing. Either way, I don't give a fuck what you think. Number two, I don't give a fuck about those kids. Let them see naked girls. I don't give a fuck. Fuck do I care? Stop having fucking kids. Ugly ass fucking babies.
On that note, we're gonna take our second shot.
We're going to take a second shot here because
we need one.
on our
Jesus
segment,
Christ, I need to drink after this.
we usually take a second shot if the first shot was under 40%. This is the second shot. Thank you.
And we coincidentally always pick something under 40%.
Thank you, Prairie Wolf Bakery, for sponsoring this episode.
And second shot.
He took his second shot while I was talking.
Yeah, because he's slow. I was going somewhere positive with this line of
And we
thought,
just
and
fucking
just
started ranting.
went off the deep end. Yeah, it's great.
So, is there anything that we've talked about today that you would change your mind now that we're drunk?
I mean, we didn't really get controversial today.
Me and you.
But
This is a pretty good episode. I think that first real estate thing that we're talking about, that was a good conversation. I
That
think.
was useful. Well, I'll just kind of continue my thread because it is kind of contradictory of where we've been for more of in a meta sense.
Just for the time.
Yeah, in more of a meta sense than in where we've talked about in this specific episode. But I'm trying to get more positive in general because
I'm the opposite.
I'm not any more optimistic about where things are going. I am simply I'm still trying to be conscious of all the pitfalls.
Trying
of,
to be happy with what you have.
No,
Okay.
not just general contentedness in the moment. I'm trying to think about the possibility of maybe the simplest way I can frame it is I think things are on a tipping point of where they can get incredibly bad, incredibly fast, and probably will get worse before they get better. But I have now a shred of hope in humanity in that we can get into the shit and back out the other side and maybe even avoid the worst of
That's
it.
what I've been saying to you for a while.
I think it's possible.
Like, I remember.
I honestly didn't think it was possible.
When we used to have our debates
Probably
with
isn't.
that other person I don't want to talk about,
Right.
I would always say, "Oh, we'll figure it out." Basically, like with technology, like and he always like really shit on me for that.
It's like, no, we're fucked.
But it's like we always talk about like they had a model for how much food they could produce on the earth.
Yeah.
To feed the people, and they said we could only support a population of 300 million people.
Right.
And after that, there's not enough food. You couldn't, with this amount of square footage.
Was it 3 billion or something?
No, I think it was like 300 million people.
Oh, wow.
Well, maybe I'm wrong, but like you know what I mean. This is a real thing. It was like it was like after we knew how big the Earth was,
Right.
but before like the world wars, I think.
Pre-industrial.
And it was like, this is how much square footage we have in the world that's farmable. This is the most we can yield from that square footage. This is what we can produce, and this is the earth we can support. And that was fact. No, you couldn't deny that.
Yeah.
That's true. And then somebody came along and invented nitrogen-based fertilizer.
Yeah.
And we were able to 1,000 times our per acre capacity of growing.
Or, yeah.
Literally.
Or acres that were previously unviable were now
Who could be viable now just by pouring fucking nitrogen, fertilizer you buy at a Home Depot for, right?
Yeah.
And it completely changed the way people thought about farming. And the same thing happened with shipping. It was like, okay, we're globalizing now. The only thing, this is the amount of countries we can support. This is the amount of shit we can ship. And then, because they're like, well, you're never going to be able to make a plane that can support fucking weight.
Yeah.
And then they did. Right? And it's like, and then the same thing happened. It's like, well, we're never going to, it's 2001. We're giving internet to people, and we're never going to be able to financially support giving internet to people in rural, remote places.
Well,
then we launched satellites. Like, it's just things have changed.
Here's a good one. When the transistor was yes, the biggest thing in technology, and they believed that the transistor was going to be like, we couldn't make anything smaller or better than the transistor.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
the scientists, that were involved were talking with politicians, and they're trying to talk about the social and economic and whatever impacts of the transistor. And they thought, well, we could, like, ships could communicate with it. And that was like one of the more out there concepts they had of it, not realizing that you're going to have 1 billion transistors in a pocket powered
literally 1 billion
lithium cobalt device, or 1 billion transistors in a single chip inside this device with all these other things. And that was going to power a globalized internet, which the social impacts of which can't be measured.
Batteries, big thing.
Right.
People never thought of.
Batteries, yeah.
We are now doing
fucking 5G, like
we are now Google. What is that called? What's the microcomputers called? The chips. What is it called?
Quantum computers.
Quantum computing.
And that's
just
the lane
Google
I was
that.
going down.
Where it's like, it is not only microscopic, but like a fraction of where when you zoom in and what you observe changes what happens.
Yeah.
Think about that. How does that exist? No, it does.
Yeah.
like,
Also, the thing I didn't realize about quantum computers is have you seen pictures of what those things look like?
Well, yeah.
It looks like a chandelier, right?
Or
It's monstrous.
Yeah.
But that's basically the cooling system that you're seeing.
Yeah.
The actual quantum computer is about this big. I'm holding a bottle cap.
Also, can't perceive how small it is?
No, it's no, you can.
I heard like someone talk about it, and they're like, looking at it like doesn't do justice to what it is.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Because
your brain can't figure.
No, you're computing You're computing on electrons. Like, that's the difference. With a regular computer, you're computing on binary code.
Yeah.
On ones and zeros, and that's like electrical impulses, whatever. But quantum computing is computing with electrons.
Yeah.
And that's currently that's the smallest we can imagine.
Well, they're like smaller than atoms, but then they figure they can go smaller.
Well, the only smaller thing that we could conceive of would be nuclear computing.
Yeah.
Because nuclei are smaller than electrons and
I
protons.
don't know
So it's
much
like we
about-
could go nuclear computing, which would be another 1,000x
Yeah.
over the million
But
x that we already did.
I remember just watching an interview with a guy who is a leader in that field.
Yeah.
I was like, oh no, like conceivably, we could do even deeper.
Yeah.
Where it was
conceivably.
like not only,
You achieve one, that would help you achieve the next.
and then it's like, and then I remember reading like AI could be able to, because humans, we couldn't see small enough, but you could get AI to take the data and change it, so it would be so small you wouldn't even be able to perceive what's happening, but like an AI could be changing like nuclear computing
So
to a point where it's
subatomic.
like we don't even know what's happening anymore. Yeah, subatomic particles. It's like, okay.
Right, and at that level, you're like even at the level of just quantum computing, which is what we're currently working with, and they're currently trying to improve. As soon as when we understand quantum computing to the degree that we've done with the transistor, you're looking at a world where aging isn't a thing.
Yeah.
Where we can control the weather, we can create anything, we can harvest energy, we can store energy, we can use energy at an efficiency level that's near perfection. We could basically be a galactic faring species with just quantum computing. Never mind the next levels that we could go down, and that's conceivably possible to have quantum computing to the level where it could start doing those things for us within the next couple decades.
Tyler,
So it's like,
you know what's going to happen? We're going to land on Neptune, and
there's going to be some thick ass bitches there.
No, some guy's going to say
Oh.
trans people aren't allowed to work on Neptune. And then we're gonna have a war.
I think that's the
See,
most depressing part
you know
about
what's
it,
funny
'cause
is
you're
that
not wrong.
The funny part is like going from like nihilism to cheerful nihilism back to nihilism.
Yeah.
Is like no. We will solve everything as human species,
And we'll be just as stupid
and
on
we're
the
gonna
other
be
side.
mad about gay people
On the other
and
side.
fucking kill. Like they're gonna be like, no, I'm not buying that fucking nuclear fusion whatever because it was made by a trans person and I'm boycotting it, and then they're gonna die, and that's what's gonna happen. We're not a species meant to last, buddy. You know what? Fucking like you look at wild animals, wild species, and they just like do what they need to survive. Yeah. People, human beings will like protest or whatever to their detriment because they're idiots. Like,
But you take that away and they will do what they need to survive.
I don't know.
I think the more you layer on, the more we get removed from what makes sense.
You know what they say is that I forget what it's called, but it's a phenomenon that's like developed nations are the only places talking about gender.
Right.
Our friend Margaret, who's been Dr. Hully, who's been on the podcast,
Art is probably the best signifier.
She talks about living back in South Africa, and she's like, I never fucking heard about gay people. I never heard about trans people. We never talked about it because
they would just exist and nobody would.
And you're gonna get stabbed tomorrow. Like
Right.
she was like talking about, it's like I need to fucking figure out how to secure my house to not get robbed. She's like, she's not thinking about those fucking trans people. Like she's not thinking about it.
Yeah.
So it's like that. There's a phrase for it. I'll put it on the screen if I can Google it afterwards. But there's like a sociological phrase for problems. I guess first world problems, what you could say in colloquialism. But when you reach a certain point of human development,
Yeah.
you start worrying about shit. When you have to worry about starving, you're not worried about gender identity.
You're not worried about shit. Yeah.
So that's why third world countries will make fun of first world countries for being like, they're fucking fighting about what?
Yeah. Well,
Like,
take
because they're all fed
Yeah.
is the thing, right?
Well, here's your clip. They'll keep you fed and safe enough to sit on the TV to worry about the shit they tell you to be afraid of.
Well,
but not so well fed that you're happy
you
and
can
content,
revolt, right?
and you don't need to turn on that TV because you're happy and content.
Yeah.
Like you're trapped, you're a little bit stressed, you're a little bit scared, and you're going to sit on that couch in with a background level of stress, anxiety, and fear, and you're going to see that thing, and you're going to be like, what's wrong? They tell you what's wrong, and you identify with it, and you get fucking mad about it. If they solved all the problems, then you don't have anything to be fucking mad about and stressed about, because it is conceivable that everyone can just live a happy life. But that is not to anyone's benefit.
It's also like, I've seen videos of people like explaining socialist ideals to conservatives, and they agree with them until they label them. Right? Or it's like everything that you don't want in life is like being caused by the world's elite, and instead of like combining our forces and fighting them, where you're mad at trans people,
basically.
And I'm saying trans people just because we were talking about it early in the episode, but like name a minority, name a
look at the volume of legislation that's been passed and see what people are giving shit about right now.
Look at our fucking city, bro.
Yeah.
Our government broadcaster had to disable comments on their social media posts because people were too racist. You look at
it's not getting better.
Literally today, Winnipeg Police Service released a statement saying somebody stabbed somebody. There's no names involved.
Yeah.
All the comments were, and excuse my profanity, this is just quoting, is like, oh, Indians going crazy in the fucking, like, just making fun of Native people.
Yeah.
Which being like they're the problem.
Which for you Americans is the equivalent of blaming black people.
But it's like, you don't know that. There's no name. There's no picture. It's like, why? But today, I read this fucking post. There was like 7 people on this comment being like, oh, it's natives. Yeah. And you're like, what are you talking about?
Which would be if you're in let's say, Atlanta, being like, these N-words are whatever, wild and out on each other. Like, that's the equivalent.
Yeah.
That's the fucking state we live in. Yeah, Canada be so fucking nice.
The fact that we can like solve everything with quantum computing, solve aging.
We can solve the technical problems. We got a cultural issue.
But people are like,
we got a people problem.
Yeah, but should we solve these natives? You know what I mean? Like, it's just like, we don't even deserve the technology.
That's when you kind of like think about those elite conspiracies, like, oh, they want the immortality for themselves.
They want us fighting.
They don't want us to have it. Well, it's like, maybe they've got a point.
They do.
Maybe not everybody needs this.
But then you know what it is, like, when you're just saying
not
that,
all
like,
the bloodlines need to continue.
You're saying like they don't want us to have it. Right. Then the conservatives are saying like, yeah, the LGBT fucking mafia.
And I'm
right?
saying that I'm saying that really on purpose. I'm saying the hard they, because everyone perceives that differently.
Yeah, you have to say the. Don't use the hard a.
Wait. I'm saying that because for a reason, because everyone has a fucking devil to blame for all the problems in the world.
Yeah.
Like it's absurd. It's nonsense. But I don't know. We could go on for years about this.
Yeah, we're gonna end up here. So thank you for listening to episode 113 of Alcohol Beyond This Point, the podcast where we debate business topics, both sober and drunk, to see
or just get mad at the world.
That first segment where we're talking about real estate was actually like helpful business, I think.
Yeah, rip.
But we were also debating, which is like very infrequent for us, because I know debating is like the theme of the show, but me and you agree on 90% of the shit. So it was nice to be able to like...
well, let me just say this.
Here we go.
Unfortunately...
I was doing my outro.
That's kind of the result of healthy debate, is you...
Just end up agreeing?
No, you don't end up agreeing. You just kind of find common ground.
Do you want to?
And we've been doing this for so long. We just have a lot of common ground, even though we disagree on a lot of things.
Do you want to like debate class this one time, where we like have to debate stuff we don't agree with?
It would have to be something specific, but we could try.
Okay.
But it's really hard when you're drinking. Like we gotta prepare.
Because we can't keep on. Yeah.
We're gonna lose the structure a third of the way through. It's gonna be a lot. We need like a sober moderator trying to keep us in line and on topic.
Willows. No, back to the fucking trans people. All right.
That's what we need. We need a sober.
I'll be like, oh yeah, no. I met this parrot the other day and it was talking. It's like, how does it do it? It's like, Willows, shut the fuck up. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for listening, guys. If you're listening on Spotify or YouTube, can you please comment where you're listening from? That would really help us out. We have like an increased viewership.
And if you're a debate club moderator, let us know.
Let us know. We'll bring Skype you on the show. If you have more than, let's say, 250 subscribers on any platform, let's have you on the podcast.
Fuck it.
Fuck it. Whatever. This episode was sponsored by Prairie Wolf Bakery. Look them up, and we'll see you next week.
Drink more beer. Please. Or wine.
Please.
Alcohol Beyond This Point podcast.
This isn't two podcasters talking business. This is two business guys trying to podcast.